Cameras might have stopped rolling, but the drama behind the scenes of Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta is louder than ever. Word on the street is that Kirk Frost, the man who's been caught in more scandals than anyone can count, just pulled off the boldest move yet. According to one Love and Hip Hop insider, Kirk allegedly paid a producer to edit out entire scenes showing his latest affair before the season's final cut. And if this rumor turns out to be true, it could explain a lot of the strange disappearances, abrupt scene cuts, and off-camera tension fans noticed during this season's episodes. But what's even wilder, Rashida, his longtime wife, had no idea. The whispers started in the editing room, where one of the show's junior producers supposedly let it slip that certain sensitive clips were flagged for removal under executive direction. No one questioned it at first after all. Last-minute edits are normal in reality TV, but this time, the deletions didn't come from Mona Scott's team, they came straight from Kirk's pocket. Allegedly, one insider described it as a quiet exchange of favors and funds that left everyone uneasy. When questioned, the producer apparently brushed it off, saying, Kirk didn't want to embarrass his family again. He's just trying to keep things peaceful. But peaceful isn't exactly the word that comes to mind when you realize what was hidden from millions of viewers. Fans began connecting dots weeks ago, noticing how one particular storyline where Kirk was seen getting a little too friendly with a young woman during the Miami trip just vanished. Entire scenes teased in early trailers were suddenly gone. The mystery woman's name was scrubbed from the credits, and the episode jumped awkwardly from a heated dinner confrontation to a calm family breakfast, as if nothing ever happened. Viewers were quick to call it out online, writing things like, "Why did VH1 cut half the story?" And "There's no way that argument just disappeared for no reason." Now, with these new insider claims, those missing moments are starting to make sense. And here's where it gets even messier. Rashida reportedly found out about the alleged payoff not through the network, but through gossip circulating in her own circle. According to one friend close to the couple, she was furious and humiliated when she learned what Kirk might have done. She's tired of covering for him, the source said. She told people she can't keep defending something she never even got to see. Now, production staff are caught in the crossfire. Some say Mona Scott herself is livid, feeling blindsided by the manipulation of her show's authenticity. Others insist Mona knew about it but turned a blind eye to protect ratings. Either way, the situation has exploded into a full-blown scandal that threatens to tear apart the Frost family's already fragile image. As whispers grow louder, fans are left wondering, how far would Kirk really go to hide his mistakes? Did he just buy his way out of another public mess, or is there a deeper secret buried in those missing scenes? It all started quietly, with a strange tension that no one could quite explain on set. Producers whispered, editors stayed late, and Kirk Frost kept his head down during filming, avoiding eye contact with almost everyone except his assistant. People thought it was just another one of those typical Love and Hip Hop production weeks, where someone was always mad at someone else. But this time there was something different in the air. Kirk wasn't acting like himself. He was careful, distant, and oddly nervous every time the cameras turned toward him. It was almost as if he was waiting for something bad to happen. And maybe he was, because deep down, Kirk knew there was a ticking time bomb waiting to explode the affair he thought he could hide forever. According to a production assistant who later spoke off the record, there had been multiple late-night editing sessions during which certain clips mysteriously vanished. "I didn't think much of it at first," the assistant said, "but the next morning, the files were gone from the system, completely deleted, no backups, nothing. That never happens unless someone orders it." Word spread fast through the editing suite that Kirk had been visiting the studio at odd hours, claiming he needed to approve footage involving his family storyline. That's something only producers are allowed to do. So naturally, people began asking questions. The footage in question allegedly showed Kirk at a private party in Atlanta, thrown by one of the music producers connected to the show. There, he was seen talking intimately with a woman who wasn't Rashida. The camera crew caught everything: his hand on her waist, his whispered compliments, even the moment he leaned in too close. It wasn't staged. It wasn't scripted. And once the footage reached the editors, everyone knew it would be explosive once it aired. But right before the final cut was locked, those scenes were gone. Erased. Replaced with a completely different segment, showing Kirk spending quality time with his kids. When fans saw that episode, they immediately noticed something strange. The teaser from 2 weeks earlier had promised a confrontation involving Kirk and a mystery woman. But that entire scene had disappeared. Social media lit up with comments like, "Where's the footage they teased?" and "VH1 playing with us again." they hiding something? People thought it might be a technical issue, but insiders knew better. Something had been bought, silenced, and sealed. Rashida, meanwhile, was left out of the loop. She filmed her regular confessionals, talking about her marriage struggles and her efforts to rebuild trust, completely unaware that Kirk had gone behind her back not only with another woman but with the show itself. The irony wasn't lost on the crew. One camera operator later joked bitterly, "He's not just cheating on Rashida, he's cheating on the audience too." As the next few weeks of filming continued, Kirk grew more paranoid. He started arriving early, asking unnecessary questions about production schedules, even requesting to see daily footage. Producers found it strange but tolerated it because he was still one of the show's biggest draws. But one night, during a wrap party, a few crew members overheard him having an argument outside with one of the post-production editors. It was heated. Kirk's voice carried across the parking lot. "You said you'd handle it," he snapped. "I don't care what it costs. Just make sure it's gone." The editor's voice was calmer but tense. "Kirk, you're putting me in a bad position. They're already asking why those clips are missing." Kirk paused, realizing people could hear, and stormed off. That was the first time anyone suspected money had changed hands. Rumor has it the payment wasn't small. Sources claim Kirk slipped the editor a stack of cash during one of his unannounced visits to the editing suite, along with a promise to take care of him if anyone asked questions. The editor, fearing for his job, allegedly went along with it, convincing his team to reformat that portion of the footage under the guise of technical corruption. By the time Mona Scott's top producers reviewed the final episodes, everything looked seamless, but nothing could hide the tension behind the scenes. Crew members noticed Rashida acting more withdrawn as the weeks went on. Though she didn't know about the alleged payment yet, she could sense something wasn't right. Kirk's phone was always face down, and he'd excuse himself every time a call came through. His explanations grew thinner by the day. "It's business, babe," he'd say, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Rashida wanted to believe him. After everything they'd been through, the cheating scandals, the public humiliation, the therapy sessions, she was tired of fighting. She wanted peace. But peace was the last thing coming. One night, during a group dinner scene that was supposed to be lighthearted, Mona herself noticed Kirk's strange behavior. He seemed jumpy, glancing at the cameras every few seconds as if he expected someone to confront him. When one of the cast members jokingly mentioned editing secrets, Kirk's fork froze midair. "What do you mean by that?" he asked sharply. Everyone laughed it off, but the moment lingered. Mona later pulled her production lead aside and whispered, "Keep an eye on that man. Something's off." A few days later, a small storm broke out online when a blogger known for leaking production tea posted, "A certain ladle husband might be paying folks to hide his dirt this season. Wait till y'all hear the receipts." Within hours, fans were speculating wildly. Names were thrown around, but Kirk's was at the top of every comment thread. Rashida's team tried to do damage control, dismissing the rumor as fanfiction, but the story spread too fast. Then, just as things started calming down, a voicemail leaked. The recording was short, muffled, but clearly featured Kirk's voice. "Yo man, don't let that clip air. I'll double it if I have to. I can't have that mess on TV again." The leak exploded. Fans were outraged, bloggers feasted on it, and VH1's public relations department went into panic mode. Inside the production office, chaos erupted. Mona called an emergency meeting with her top producers and demanded answers. "Who approved this?" she snapped. "And why wasn't I informed?" Everyone looked around the table, silent. The editor who had taken Kirk's payment sat there sweating, eyes down, praying no one would mention his name. While the network investigated, Kirk went missing for several days. He didn't show up for scheduled shoots, ignored calls, and left Rashida to face the cameras alone. When he finally returned, he claimed he'd been handling personal issues, but everyone knew the walls were closing in. Rumors said Mona confronted him privately, warning him that if the allegations were true, he could be banned from the franchise entirely. Kirk denied everything. "People just trying to mess with me," he said defensively. But even his castmates didn't believe him anymore. The energy on set shifted completely. No one laughed between takes. Every word felt like a lie. Producers whispered in corners, trying to decide whether to protect the show's image or expose the truth. Mona faced a choice: keep her ratings or keep her integrity. Some say she leaned toward protecting the brand. Others insist she secretly ordered a re-edit to see what had really been cut. Either way, the tension reached a breaking point when Rashida received an anonymous message that changed everything. The message was sent late at night to her phone, a single clip file labeled "Watch This." She hesitated before opening it, her hands shaking. When she finally pressed play, her entire world froze. There was Kirk, laughing, flirting, touching another woman's arm, whispering in her ear while cameras rolled. The audio was faint, but the tone was unmistakable. Betrayal. Her eyes filled with tears as she watched the man she'd defended for years do it again, this time trying to erase the evidence. She sat there for minutes, unable to move, then whispered, "He really paid them off." That night, she didn't sleep. By morning, everyone knew Rashida had seen the clip, and the firestorm that followed would shake love and hip-hop Atlanta to its core. By sunrise, word had spread across Atlanta's entertainment circle that Rashida had finally seen the footage Kirk tried to bury. People close to her said she looked broken, but also strangely calm, the kind of calm that comes after a storm you knew was coming. She didn't yell, she didn't throw anything. She just said, "I'm done being the fool." When production resumed that afternoon, everyone could feel the shift in her energy. She arrived on set wearing oversized sunglasses and a quiet expression that said more than any confessional ever could. Kirk showed up 2 hours late, acting as though nothing had happened, smiling and joking with the crew. But the silence that greeted him told the truth. They all knew. During filming, Mona Scott stood off camera, arms folded, eyes locked on Kirk. She had already heard the rumors, but now that the video was circulating among insiders, she couldn't ignore it. She gave a small nod to the director, signaling him to keep rolling. She wanted this confrontation on tape. The scene was supposed to be a casual check-in between the Frosts, but Rashida had other plans. When Kirk sat down beside her and asked, "You good, babe?" her response was quiet, almost cold. "You tell me, Kirk. Am I good?" He frowned, confused or pretending to be. "What's that supposed to mean?" She turned to him, lowered her glasses, and looked him straight in the eye. "You know exactly what it means. You've been paying people to hide your dirt, and I'm supposed to just smile for the cameras." The crew froze. No one dared move. Kirk stammered, "Who told you that?" She leaned back, folding her arms. "Doesn't matter who told me. I saw it. Every second." He swallowed hard, realizing she had the clip. "Rashida, listen," she cut him off, her voice steady but sharp. "No, you listen. I've been out here defending you, taking the heat for your mistakes, and you had the nerve to manipulate the show just to protect your image. That's not a marriage, Kirk, that's a performance." The room went dead silent except for the faint hum of the cameras. The confrontation was explosive but controlled. Rashida didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just spoke the truth, and somehow that made it even worse. Kirk's face went pale as he realized the damage was already done. Mona, standing behind the monitor, whispered to the director, "Keep every second of this." That moment, raw and unfiltered, was the kind of reality gold producers dream of, but for Kirk, it was the beginning of the end. Later that night, Kirk was seen leaving the studio alone, his phone buzzing nonstop. Bloggers were already posting about the confrontation that shut the set down. Someone had leaked that Rashida finally confronted him over the alleged payment, and fans went wild. One post read, "Rashida deserves better. Kirk been playing dirty for years." While another said, "If he paid to hide his affair, what else has he paid to erase?" The internet turned against him overnight. The following morning, Mona held a closed-door meeting with VH1 executives. She was furious not just because Kirk had allegedly tampered with production, but because the scandal threatened to ruin the network's credibility. "We built this franchise on real reactions," she said sharply. "If cast members start editing their own storylines, we lose everything." One executive tried to calm her, suggesting they quietly handle it. But Mona wasn't having it. "We're not sweeping this under the rug. If he thinks he can rewrite reality, he's about to find out who really runs this show." Behind the scenes, Kirk scrambled to do damage control. He called Rashida multiple times, but she ignored every message. When she finally answered, her tone was icy. "You didn't just betray me," she said. "You betrayed the show, the fans, and every single person who believed in us." Kirk tried to apologize, saying he did it to protect their family. "I just didn't want the world dragging us again," he pleaded. Rashida's response was simple. "The world wouldn't drag us if you stopped giving them reasons to." Then she hung up. Rumors spread that Kirk tried to meet privately with Mona to plead his case, but she refused to see him. Instead, she sent word through a producer that he was suspended from filming until further notice. That's when Kirk panicked. His storyline was his lifeline. Without it, his public image and his income would crumble. Sources say he tried contacting the same editor he'd allegedly paid off, warning him not to say anything, but it was too late. The editor had already confessed everything to protect himself. During his confession, the editor admitted to receiving cash payments from Kirk in exchange for deleting multiple clips. He also revealed that Kirk threatened him afterward, saying he'd make sure he never worked in Atlanta again if he spoke up. When Mona heard this, she was livid. "He really thought he could bully my crew," she shouted in the meeting. "He's done." She immediately ordered her legal team to review the footage archives and restore any deleted material they could recover. A few clips were gone for good, but some raw audio files still existed on the backup drives. And those, Mona promised, would be used. As production halted, Rashida retreated from the public eye for a few days. Paparazzi spotted her leaving a spa, looking exhausted but composed. When a reporter shouted, "Rashida, is it true Kirk paid to hide an affair?" she didn't answer, just slipped into her car and drove away. Fans flooded her social media with messages of support. "You're too good for this," one fan wrote. "Don't let him play you again." Within hours, her followers grew by thousands, while Kirk's comment section turned into a battlefield. People called him a manipulator, a coward, even a fraud. He tried to post a denial, writing, "Don't believe everything you hear." People love to twist stories, but the damage was already done. In a shocking twist, a second insider came forward, someone from the camera crew, claiming that Kirk had also tried to get physical evidence destroyed. According to this source, Kirk once showed up at a storage site where old memory cards were kept, demanding access to review some footage. When told he needed permission, he allegedly offered cash to the guard on duty. The guard refused and later reported the incident to production. That report, now part of an internal file, only deepened the suspicions surrounding Kirk's actions. Meanwhile, Rashida began quietly preparing her next move. She met with her publicist and her closest friend from the cast to discuss how to handle the inevitable public fallout. "I don't want to look like the victim again," she said firmly. "I want to show them I'm stronger without him." Her friend nodded, saying, "Then stop saving him. Let him face the mess he made." It was the first time Rashida admitted she might finally walk away for good. Mona, sensing the drama was reaching its peak, decided to use it to her advantage. She told her editing team to compile a behind-the-scenes special focusing on the making of the season, a coded way of exposing Kirk without outright naming him. She wanted viewers to see glimpses of what had been erased, to stir curiosity, to let the truth speak for itself. If he tried to hide his affair, Mona told her team, "We're going to make sure the world sees every shadow he left behind." By the end of the week, Kirk showed up uninvited to the studio, demanding to speak with Mona. Security tried to stop him, but he pushed through, shouting, "You can't just cut me out like this. I built this show to..." Mona stepped into the hallway, calm but fierce. "You didn't build this show, Kirk," she said. "You built your mess on my platform. Now you can clean it up somewhere else." Kirk's face flushed with anger. "You can't prove I paid anyone," he snapped. Mona smirked slightly. "Don't need to. Your editor already did." That was the moment Kirk knew it was over. He turned and stormed out, cameras secretly rolling from a distance. Outside, he was met by paparazzi who had already heard whispers of his confrontation. Flashes exploded as they shouted questions, but Kirk just lowered his head and got into his car. Inside, he slammed the door and hit the steering wheel, muttering under his breath, "They really out to ruin me." But deep down, he knew no one had to ruin him. He'd done that all by himself. Later that night, as Atlanta slept, Mona watched the recovered footage in her office. The grainy clip of Kirk and the mystery woman playing on her screen. She leaned back, sighed, and said softly, "He thought he could play the game, but the game always wins." And with that, she called her team and gave a simple order: "We're airing it." What she didn't realize yet was that airing it wouldn't just destroy Kirk's reputation, it would unravel everything love and hip-hop stood for, piece by piece. The morning after Mona made her decision, the entire production floor buzzed like a live wire. People whispered in corners, phones pinged with leaked screenshots, and tension filled every hallway. The recovered footage was real, and it was damning. Kirk wasn't just casually flirting, he was caught full-on embracing the mystery woman, laughing about how Rashida don't need to know everything. One line in particular made everyone gasp when they heard it. Kirk saying, "They can edit whatever they want. I got people who'll make sure my story stays clean." That single sentence confirmed every rumor swirling around him. The network executives debated all morning whether releasing the footage would be too risky. Some feared legal repercussions, others argued it would skyrocket ratings. Mona sat at the head of the table, tapping her pen against her notepad, listening quietly as everyone fought to protect their own interests. Finally, she spoke. "We built this show on truth and consequences," she said flatly. "If Kirk didn't want to face his, he shouldn't have created them. We're not protecting anyone." The room fell silent. The decision was made. As news of the upcoming unaired footage episode spread, fans lost their minds online. Hashtags like #KirkGate and #EditedAffair trended within hours. Gossip blogs published exclusive teasers claiming the show would reveal the scandal Kirk fought to bury. Meanwhile, Rashida kept her composure in public, but those closest to her said she barely slept. She spent her nights replaying the leaked clip, trying to make sense of how she'd ended up here, again betrayed, humiliated, and forced to relive it all in front of millions. When her friend Carly Red stopped by her house, Rashida finally broke down. "I thought we were past this," she whispered through tears. "I thought he changed." Carly hugged her tightly. "He don't change, girl. He just hides better." But this time, the hiding didn't work. On the other side of town, Kirk was losing control. His phone wouldn't stop ringing calls from reporters, producers, even old friends asking if the rumors were true. He refused to answer any of them. Instead, he called his lawyer, pacing the floor of his office. "They can't air that without my consent, right?" he demanded. The lawyer's voice was calm but firm. "Technically, Kirk, you signed a release. They own all footage recorded during production. If you paid someone to tamper with it, you don't have a case, you have a bigger problem." Kirk swore under his breath. "So I'm just supposed to let them ruin me?" The lawyer didn't answer. He didn't have to. When the episode finally aired the following Sunday, it broke every record the franchise had seen in years. Millions tuned in, hungry for the truth. The show opened with a disclaimer about previously unreleased material, followed by a slow montage of the cast reacting to unseen drama. And then, there it was, the footage. Kirk at the party, laughing, whispering, leaning too close to the woman in red. The crowd gasped. The internet exploded. Social media feeds filled with disbelief. One fan tweeted, "He really tried to erase this. Man, Kirk's career just self-destructed on national TV." Rashida watched the episode alone in her living room. She didn't cry this time. She just stared at the screen, quiet, absorbing every detail. The betrayal felt heavier in silence. When the credits rolled, she turned off the TV, stood up, and whispered, "That's it, I'm done." She called her manager the next morning and said she was taking a break from filming. "I need to find myself again," she told him. "I can't keep performing my pain for ratings." The network tried to convince her to stay, offering to shift her storyline toward empowerment, but she refused. "Let them have Kirk's mess," she said. "I'm not part of that circus anymore." Meanwhile, Kirk tried to do damage control in his own chaotic way. He posted a long Instagram caption claiming the footage was taken out of context, and that he was being set up by editing tricks. Fans didn't buy it. Within hours, his post was flooded with clown emojis and angry comments. "You can't edit your way out of reality," one follower wrote. Another said, "You paid to delete scenes, not your guilt." Kirk deleted the post within a day, but screenshots spread faster than wildfire. Behind the scenes, Mona's office became a war zone. Kirk showed up unannounced again, this time demanding that the episode be pulled from streaming. Mona didn't even flinch. "You think I'm scared of you," she said, staring him down. "You made your bed, Kirk, now lie in it." Kirk tried to plead. "Mona, you don't understand. I've got family, I've got kids." She cut him off. "And you should have thought about that before you tried to manipulate my show. This isn't your family drama anymore. It's public record." As Kirk stormed out, one of the producers whispered, "He's finished." And maybe he was. Sponsors began backing out of collaborations tied to his image, while Rashida's brand quietly flourished in contrast. Fans rallied behind her, calling her a queen for surviving chaos. She received dozens of offers from interviews to talk show appearances, but she turned most of them down. "I'm not chasing sympathy," she said. "I just want peace." Still, her silence spoke volumes, and every outlet wanted a piece of her story. A few nights later, Kirk was spotted at a downtown bar, drinking alone. A fan approached, phone in hand, asking for a picture. Kirk forced a smile, but the fan said coldly, "Nah, I just wanted to see if you'd admit it." Kirk walked out, visibly shaken. Those who saw him that night said he looked like a man who'd finally realized his reputation couldn't be edited, no matter how much money he threw at it. Then came the next blow. The same editor who confessed to taking Kirk's bribe gave an exclusive interview to a gossip channel, describing the entire ordeal in detail. "He begged me to cut the footage," the editor said. "He said it would ruin his family. I tried to back out, but he kept showing up with cash and promises. I should have said no. But when the truth came out, I knew I had to come clean." The interview went viral instantly. Kirk's last shred of credibility vanished overnight. Meanwhile, Mona faced pressure from higher-ups to move past the scandal, but she had one last card to play. She scheduled a reunion, special live, unedited, and unpredictable. She wanted closure, but more than that, she wanted ratings. The cast gathered, uneasy, aware that the atmosphere would be explosive. Backstage, Kirk tried to talk to Rashida, but she refused to even look at him. "Don't," she said quietly. "Not today. Not ever." Once the cameras started rolling, Mona welcomed the cast and addressed the elephant in the room. "A lot's been said this season," she began, her tone sharp but composed. "We've seen lies, love, betrayal, and maybe even manipulation behind the scenes. Tonight, we're going to clear the air." The crowd erupted with cheers. Kirk shifted in his seat, eyes darting toward Rashida, who sat across from him in a sleek red dress, arms folded, face unreadable. When Mona turned to him, asking, "Kirk, do you have anything to say about the allegations that you paid to remove footage?" He hesitated, his mouth opening and closing before words came out. "Look," he began, "I made some mistakes. I was trying to protect my family, not deceive anyone. Things got out of hand." Rashida's laugh cut through his sentence, short, bitter, almost sad. "You call paying people off, protecting your family? That's rich." Kirk looked at her helplessly. "Rashida, please." She shook her head. "You don't get to say my name on camera anymore." The room fell silent. Even Mona, who had seen countless confrontations, looked momentarily speechless. Fans watching live flooded social media with comments. "This is realer than any storyline." And Rashida finally said what we've all been thinking. Kirk tried to recover, insisting he'd been misunderstood, but no one believed him anymore. His words fell flat, drowned out by years of broken promises and public apologies. When the reunion ended, the cast dispersed quietly. Mona sat alone for a while afterward, looking at the empty stage. She'd gotten her ratings, her drama, her headlines, but for once, it didn't feel satisfying. "We show people's lives," she murmured, almost to herself. "But sometimes, it costs too much." She knew this scandal would haunt the franchise for a long time, maybe even reshape how the show handled reality itself. Outside, Kirk waited near the parking lot, hoping Rashida might speak to him one last time. When she finally emerged, surrounded by her team, she paused for a brief second. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the cameras, the chaos, the lies, all of it faded. "Take care of yourself," she said softly, then walked away without looking back. Kirk watched her go, realizing he'd lost not just his wife, but the one person who had always believed in him, despite everything. As the lights from the studio faded behind him, Kirk sat alone in his car, staring at his reflection in the rearview mirror. His phone buzzed again, messages, missed calls, more fallout, but he didn't pick it up. The man who once controlled his own narrative now had none left to tell. And somewhere inside the VH1 offices, Mona Scott prepared for what would come next, the next chapter, the next scandal, the next scandal, the next storm, because, in the world of love and hip-hop, the drama never truly ends. And just when everyone thought the storm had settled, Kirk did something that flipped the narrative upside down again. It started with a leaked email chain, allegedly between Kirk and a post-production assistant who used to work on Love and Hip Hop's editing team. The messages showed Kirk discussing scenes that needed to be handled before delivery, hinting at something far more deliberate than just cutting out awkward footage. Insiders claimed Kirk paid a hefty sum to ensure his secret moments with another woman never saw daylight, and that producer was the key to making it happen. According to the insider, Kirk didn't just flirt off camera. He allegedly coordinated scenes that made him look like a loyal husband, while privately manipulating edits to hide his double life. One crew member described it as a full-on image cleanup operation. Fans, when they heard this, couldn't believe the lengths Kirk went to protect his reputation. Social media was on fire with comments like, "Kirk really bought his own redemption arc," and "Rashida's been living in a movie directed by her husband." It wasn't just viewers talking. Former castmates began hinting at things they weren't supposed to say. Especially one unnamed female cast member who tweeted, "If y'all knew what he did in season 8, you'd never look at him the same." Those words alone sent everyone into overdrive. Rumors swirled that Kirk had used his influence to push Mona Scott to approve those selective edits. But Mona reportedly had no idea how deep it went. One producer claimed Kirk was sneaky with it, working through third parties and throwing money around like it was nothing just to erase moments that would expose him. The woman at the center of it all, allegedly a backup stylist on set, had apparently told close friends she was pressured to stay quiet after Kirk promised her career connections. But when that promise fell through, she started talking, and that's when the receipts began to leak. Screenshots, timestamps, and behind-the-scenes photos began popping up in fan pages. One showed Kirk sitting in a car with a woman who looked eerily similar to the stylist. Both smiling while the production camera sat parked outside. People started connecting dots that maybe this was one of the scenes that got edited out entirely. Another image showed a familiar hotel hallway fans recognized from past episodes, but with a date stamp that matched filming days. By then, the narrative was spiraling out of Kirk's control. Rashida, already tired of years of lies and patchwork apologies, was said to be devastated when the full truth hit her. One insider close to the Frost family claimed Rashida broke down after seeing the messages, saying, "I've stood by this man through everything, and he still found new ways to humiliate me." Kirk's defense was that he was only protecting his marriage from unnecessary drama and editing out misleading footage. But fans weren't buying it. They argued that if the footage was harmless, there'd be no reason to pay anyone off. The stylist allegedly disappeared from Atlanta right after the story broke, further fueling speculation that Kirk had arranged something to keep her silent. One fan summed it up perfectly: if he'll edit his life for TV, imagine what he edits in real life. What made things worse was how calm Kirk tried to appear in public. Paparazzi caught him walking into his restaurant, Frost Bistro, as if nothing had happened, ignoring reporters' questions. Rashida, on the other hand, looked visibly shaken when spotted leaving a beauty event days later. She didn't speak to the press, but sources said she's been confiding in close friends about feeling played by the man she built an empire with. Production sources revealed that this wasn't the first time Kirk had requested scenes to be edited. Apparently, in previous seasons, he'd often complain about unfair portrayals whenever his actions stirred backlash. But this time, the stakes were higher because money allegedly exchanged hands. The insider who came forward described it as a hush deal disguised as creative control. Mona Scott, once informed, was reportedly furious, calling an emergency meeting to review how this could have happened without her knowing. She was said to have told her team, if anyone's taking money to protect a cast member, they're done. Fans were quick to turn this into a trending topic, calling it edit. Hashtags like #KirkEditGate and #FrostedTruth started circulating across social media. Conspiracy threads popped up analyzing frame-by-frame scenes from past episodes, pointing out moments where lighting, dialogue, or camera cuts seemed off. One viewer even posted a side-by-side comparison of an unaired clip versus the final version, claiming that Kirk's hand placement and body language were clearly romantic with the stylist before being cropped out. As the tension grew, Rashida reportedly began questioning the entire narrative of their marriage that had been played out on national television. How much of what I saw was even real? She allegedly told a friend. That question hit everyone who'd watched their love story unfold over the years. Kirk's attempt to rewrite history had backfired spectacularly. More former crew members began stepping forward anonymously, revealing that Kirk wasn't the only one who had asked for edits in exchange for favors. Though his case was the most extreme, one of them described how Kirk even offered to sponsor a small project for a junior editor in exchange for cleaning up footage from an afterparty. It painted a picture of manipulation so deep it blurred the line between reality TV and outright fabrication. Rashida's silence grew louder, and fans began rallying around her, flooding her comments section with messages like "You deserve better" and "Let that man face his truth." Kirk's team tried damage control by leaking stories about how the couple was working things out privately, but few believed it. Every new leak made it harder to deny, and the more Kirk stayed quiet, the guiltier he looked. It wasn't just about infidelity anymore, it was about deception on a professional level. Mona Scott, faced with pressure from VH1 executives, was forced to launch an internal investigation. The network wanted to ensure no other cast member was involved in paying to alter storylines. The investigation confirmed that one payment had indeed been made under post-production consulting, traced back to an associate of Kirk's. By that point, the damage was irreversible. Kirk had not only jeopardized his marriage, but also risked his standing with the network that made him famous. Yet, behind the scenes, Kirk was said to be panicking quietly, calling old contacts and trying to figure out how the leak started. The deeper he tried to bury the truth, the more it resurfaced, and every whisper in Atlanta seemed to carry his name. The situation was reaching its boiling point, and even Mona knew the next move could define the fate of love and hip-hop itself. Mona Scott was done playing mediator. Behind closed doors, she called Kirk directly, and according to insiders, the conversation was explosive. "You think you can buy my show?" she allegedly snapped during the call. "You think you can rewrite what the audience deserves to see?" Kirk tried to defend himself, insisting that the edits were about protecting his marriage and brand, but Mona wasn't having it. "Your brand is the drama, Kirk. she said. You signed up for this life, and now you want to hide it because it finally caught up to you. Reports claim that Mona threatened to suspend Kirk from filming unless he came clean, both to her and to Rashida. But Kirk, stubborn as ever, stayed silent, hoping the buzz would die down. Instead, it grew worse. The insider who leaked the original information wasn't done. They dropped a full-on voice recording of Kirk talking to the producer he paid off. In the clip, Kirk's voice was heard saying, "Make sure those shots don't make it into the final cut. I'll send the rest through Zelle tonight." The recording spread like wildfire across social media, sending fans into complete chaos. Twitter threads exploded, Reddit was flooded with theories, and YouTube gossip channels were dissecting every second of the clip. One fan posted, "This man really tried to erase his sins with cash," while another wrote, "So Kirk's been buying forgiveness since season 1. The backlash grew so intense that VH1 reportedly demanded Kirk issue a statement immediately, but his silence continued. Rashida, meanwhile, was spiraling emotionally. People close to her said she had been trying to process the betrayal privately, but the humiliation was too public to ignore. "She's embarrassed, heartbroken, and angry all at once," said a family friend. Rashida built her name through loyalty, and now it's like the world's watching her crumble in real time. Her boutique staff even noticed the change. Rashida, usually upbeat and friendly, had become withdrawn, skipping store appearances and avoiding fan interactions. But the story took another twist when the producer Kirk paid off decided to break their silence. In an exclusive interview with a gossip site, the producer revealed, "Kirk didn't just pay for edits, he told me exactly which scenes to destroy. I was supposed to delete them from the raw footage altogether." When asked why they decided to come forward, the producer said, "Because I realized this wasn't about protecting his marriage, it was about protecting his ego." They even named the stylist, referring to her as the woman who was always around during the Atlanta shoots but wasn't supposed to be. According to the producer, Kirk instructed them to make sure no scene suggested emotional intimacy and to keep Rashida looking happy. It was manipulation of perception on every level. Mona, upon hearing this, was furious. She reportedly called an emergency meeting with the network execs, demanding a full audit of the show's production. "We built this franchise on authenticity," she said, "and now one of our own has turned it into a cover-up." Sources say VH1's legal department got involved, and Kirk was quietly warned that tampering with production materials could lead to termination or even legal consequences. The entire Love and Hip Hop cast began taking sides. Some defended Rashida, while others hinted that everybody knew something was off. Carly Red allegedly told a friend, "We all saw things that didn't make sense on set. Now it's clear why." Even Scrappy chimed in during an Instagram live, saying, "That man been playing puppet master for too long. Karma's catching up." As the outrage spread, Kirk tried to paint himself as a victim of overblown media drama. He told a close source, "People don't understand how editing can destroy a marriage. I was just trying to control the narrative, but that explanation didn't hold." Fans pointed out that this wasn't about narrative control, it was about deception. The stylist at the center of it all was tracked down by another outlet, and though she didn't appear on camera, she allegedly told reporters, "Kirk made promises he couldn't keep. When he realized I wasn't going to stay quiet, he tried to erase every trace of me." Those words alone reignited the fire. Rumors began circulating that Rashida confronted Kirk at their restaurant in a heated argument that turned heads. Customers reportedly overheard her shouting, "How long were you going to let me play the fool?" Kirk, visibly tense, was said to have walked out mid-conversation, leaving Rashida sitting there in tears. That moment became the talk of Atlanta. Fans gathered outside Frost Bistro days later, taking photos and leaving comments online, like "You can't edit real life, Kirk, and Rashida deserves better." The story even caught the attention of entertainment news outlets outside the LHHH world, with headlines like "Love and Hip Hop's biggest scandal yet. Kirk Frost accused of buying off producers." Inside VH1, Mona reportedly faced massive pressure from executives to contain the situation before it spiraled into a full-blown legal mess. The network feared losing credibility, especially since Love and Hip Hop prided itself on showing real lives. Mona, always the strategist, decided to let the truth work in her favor. Sources said she told her team, "If he wanted drama off-screen, let's bring it on screen." That's when she decided to turn the scandal into a storyline. Cameras started rolling again, this time focusing on Rashida's emotional reaction, the fallout, and the behind-the-scenes politics of Kirk's cover-up. It was bold, risky, and guaranteed ratings. Kirk didn't want to film, but Mona made it clear, either you show up, or you're done. Faced with losing his paycheck and public platform, Kirk reluctantly agreed. Insiders say filming those scenes was some of the most uncomfortable TV ever made. Rashida's pain was raw, the tension in every shot so thick it made the crew uneasy. One cameraman later said, "You could feel the betrayal in the room." Fans would soon see the full unraveling of Kirk's carefully edited image, and no amount of money could hide it anymore. The truth was catching up fast, and everyone knew the next episode could change everything. And as the dust began to settle, one question lingered in every viewer's mind. How much of Love and Hip Hop had been real all along? Kirk Frost, the man who once claimed he was misunderstood, now stood at the center of one of the biggest scandals the franchise had ever seen. He had tried to buy silence, edit his way out of shame, and rewrite a narrative built on deceit, but in the end, the truth wrote itself louder than any script. Rashida, who had stood beside him through countless storms, finally seemed to realize that loyalty without honesty only leads to heartbreak. Every fan who once rooted for their redemption now watched in disbelief as their favorite couple crumbled under the weight of secrets. Social media timelines turned into war zones of opinion, some defending Kirk's desperation to protect his family, others demanding accountability for the manipulation of an entire audience. "He didn't just cheat on his wife," one fan commented, "he cheated the fans, who believed their story." Mona Scott, ever the queen of reality TV reinvention, was said to be turning the situation into an opportunity to expose the hidden side of fame, showing viewers what really happens when love, money, and television collide. Insiders claimed a new spin-off might even explore the fallout, giving Rashida her own space to reclaim her story and finally speak her truth. As for Kirk, whispers suggested he'd been temporarily suspended from production while VH1 reviewed the full extent of his actions. The irony was brutal. After years of controlling how his life was portrayed, he had finally lost all control. The cameras, the fans, the headlines, everything was now against him. Yet, through it all, Rashida's quiet strength began to stand out. People admired how she carried herself amid humiliation, never publicly dragging Kirk, never indulging in bitterness, but letting the world see the difference between power and pride. Even those who had once criticized her for staying began to respect her silence, realizing it spoke louder than any clapback. "She's not broken," one fan wrote. "She's just done." And that sentiment spread like wildfire. Kirk's empire, from Frost Bistro to their family brand, began to feel the ripple effect. Sponsors reportedly pulled back, and bookings slowed down as fans demanded accountability. For the first time, the man who had built his image on control found himself completely powerless. Mona's final decision to air parts of the controversy became a turning point, not just for the franchise but for reality TV itself. It reminded audiences that behind every scene, every confession, and every apology, there's a human story that editing can't erase. As viewers prepared for the next episode, the anticipation was electric. Would Kirk face Rashida on camera and finally admit the truth? Would Rashida walk away for good? Or would another twist rewrite everything yet again? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain, this wasn't just TV anymore. It was raw emotion, betrayal, and karma unfolding in real time. Fans couldn't stop talking about it, dissecting every preview, every leaked clip, and every cryptic post from the cast. Everyone had an opinion, but no one could deny that the drama had reignited their obsession with love and hip-hop. And if you're watching this right now, you've been part of that chaos, too. You've seen how fame can twist love, how lies can hide behind camera angles, and how no amount of editing can conceal the truth forever. So tell us, what do you think really happened behind those scenes? Did Kirk go too far? Or was he just another victim of the fame machine? Do you believe Rashida will forgive him again? Or has she finally reached her breaking point? Your thoughts might just predict how this story ends, so drop them below. We want to know whose side you're on, Team Kirk or Team Rashida. Make sure to like this video if you think truth always wins, and hit that subscribe button because the next chapter of this saga is already unfolding. New insiders are speaking, new footage is emerging, and the firestorm isn't over yet. This story is far from finished, and when the next revelation drops, you'll want to be the first to know. So stay tuned, because in the world of love and hip-hop, the drama never fades, it just gets edited differently.